I guess this is a segue because people want to talk about this Jay-Z and Nas thing. Um,
We talked about it already today, like twice. Yeah.
yeah. All right.
All
So
right.
Nas is his
Nas is
goat. He said Nas is the greatest MC of all time. He says Nas was ordained to be the greatest MC of all time. But he also said, Is That Your Chick? Jay showed that he could do some things that Nas couldn't. Um, he also called Jay Z selfish, but he said Jay Z would say that about himself. It was a lot of things when it came to him and Jay, and their relationship, and as brothers. And he said he wouldn't do a versus against Jay. He said because Jay's the boss or his boss or whatever. But then he also said after they asked him about the Drake thing, he said I'm winning in any situation. So I think he thinks he would beat Jay in the verses, even though he didn't say that. I'm not going to put words in his mouth. It's a lot to unpack there. But what I will start with is, what did you think about what he said about the Watch the Throne process and Jay not wanting to give up Holy Grail, and he felt like he was giving up more on that project than Jay, because he alluded to the fact that Otis and Niggas in Paris were his, and he gave that to the project. Well, Jay wouldn't give up Holy Grail.
So for people when they first heard that album that loved Jay, it was like, okay, you're in Kanye's zone. And so his selfishness was actually a mistake. This is what I mean about how Ye's a head and a genius of sorts. Because Ye probably seen something producer wise that Jay couldn't see. Is like, oh no, you don't want to be over here in my world too much. That's not going to play well with your core fan base. And it didn't, because his core fan base is like, yo, this nigga getting out rapped by Ye on the album. But it was more in Ye's zone. And that's that selfishness coming back to bite you, because it probably wouldn't have came off that way had you came off some of your stuff instead of more like what you say. Jay got more out of Ye than Ye got out of Jay. And I already know that you're going to say that, Mike, and this is the proof to it.
It is.
And so not only is it the proof, it's selfish behavior, and it hurts the project. It's like, what are you doing?
I mean, yeah. All right. So
because Ye's massive when they're making Watch the Throne. This ain't college dropout Ye. Ye's actually at this moment in time, Ye's bigger than you.
Listen, Jay-Z's only gonna step in a situation when he needs you more than you need him. Even when you look at the Best of Both Worlds, R. Kelly was bigger than Jay-Z at the time, and Jay-Z really wanted to do Best of Both Worlds because of that. And this is the same thing. Like, he needed Kanye more than Kanye needed him. Kanye could have dropped another record, honestly. But I want to rewind though. I could see, based on a lot of things that Kanye spoke about in the interview, why Nas is his favorite MC and the greatest MC to him. He's more personable lyrically. And I think Nas is just one of those MCs that, for hip hop heads, it's just staggering how great he is and how great he was at a certain point where he was leagues ahead of people. Like on Illmatic, Nas was just leagues and leagues ahead of his peers. And shit, even at that point, ahead of some of the legends, which is, and I say that respectfully, I think they would agree with that. So I think as a hip hop, just as a hip hop historian, the hip hop historian in Kanye is fascinated by that, and that's something that can never be reversed. I think we talked about this on the show. I think that's one of the things that kind of bothers Jay. He can't undo where Nas was at 19 years old and what he meant to the game. Like, you can't knock that out of people's psyche. Yeah. Like the way that Raekwon and Ghostface talk about Nas, you can't undo that, no matter what you're doing moving forward. And I think that's kind of where Kanye is and why Nas is his favorite MC. On top of that, to move forward from that, I think that he works with Jay because he knows, I think there's two things. I think there's an appreciation for the fact that Jay created the lane that he was able to sneak into. The avenue rather, not lane, but created the avenue where he was able to kind of sneak in and just do what he was doing, and he appreciates that, even though they don't totally agree creatively. I guess I should say. And so songs like The Joy are things that seem like, would have been more fit for Nas, right?
Mhm.
And because that's more of where Ye kind of goes personally. Because he even said on The Blueprint, when he was like, I really didn't want the introspective Jay and all that stuff. You know what I mean? It's an interesting relationship. I think they have a incredible amount of respect for one another.
So
But
let's
go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, no, no. Go ahead.
Because I'm kind of like blabbering
So
on, but
right,
yeah,
let's touch on a couple things.
yeah,
First of all, when he made the Nas comment still after all these years, because he's made it numerous times at
he
different
has.
points in his career, he has. One thing that I realized, and this is what I mean about how uncompromising he is, and people need to understand this about Kanye. In Kanye's mind, before Rockefeller ever put him on, before he did these records and albums with Jay, before he produced on The Blueprint, he thought Nas was the greatest MC of all time.
He's the golden child.
And there's no changing that in his mind, including you could sign me, put me on, we could make classic hits together. You could be bigger than Nas in a lot of people's eyes, but he's still the best MC to me. You're my number two. And so that spoke to me.
He
Not,
never even said that though, but yeah.
I mean, I would like
Yeah.
to think that though.
He
Most
might
likely.
be.
Most likely. So it speaks to how unwavering he is more than anything else. As far as their relationship, I mean, and let me say something else. When we're talking about aesthetics and taste, and I've been told this about people from Chicago and Detroit, specifically in the Midwest, well, they always gravitated to Nas and Pac more than Big and J.
Mm.
So the regionally, I think Nas and Pac in that region were always looked upon at a higher level than Big and J, or at the same level.
I can see that.
For those guys. And so that's some of Ye's preference coming in from where he's from too, I think. As far as the relationship with Jay, Mike, I don't think there have ever been two artists of their stature in hip hop that have a more complicated relationship, Mike.
M. Michael says Kanye is a hypocrite. Why do you think Kanye is a hypocrite?
I mean, he might be. So is Tupac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of great men are hypocrites.
Well, they're Geminis. I mean, I think that the Gemini sign has two sides, right? And can we confuse that with being a hypocrite? Andre 3000's Gemini. And you were about to make me say Andre 3000's a hypocrite. I didn't mean to say that. But he's
so can Nas, so can Tupac. Like, all of these guys can be hypocritical at times or have been at different stages in their career. Dr. Cream could be a hypocrite at times.
But, Andre 3000 is a Gemini, right? We see two sides of, those individuals, and, they're very, and Lauryn Hill as well. They kind of make some of the best artists, but they're going to shift. There's a shift going on. Like, how big do you think this would be? How big do you think this Atlanta Braves celebration would be if Outkast was doing it, right? Big Boy's performing, and shout out to Big Boy, who I feel like is the king of Atlanta. I don't care what anybody says. He puts on for the city, he represents for the city, and he's been doing it nonstop since 1994. I really wish that, his partner would just be like, you know what, for the city, be a part of this celebration real quick.
So, Mike, it's supposed to be 1 million people out at the celebration, right?
Yeah.
If Outkast was performing, it would be 2 or 3 next.
Like, what's the problem, man? Like, I don't get it.
Outkast would perform. Be 2 million, 3 million people right now if Outkast were performing.
Kendrick's a Gemini as well too. Thank you, K. Thompson. Okay, all right. I want to get back to this this Kanye and Jay-Z relationship. I think that, and this kind of takes us on to the Just Blaze thing. I think Kanye has been responsible for Jay-Z's direction in the whole 2000s. I'm just gonna say that. I think that we know in the 90s, Reasonable Doubt, it had a focus. It was focused more so on what was going on at the time, right? Production-wise, and he was telling his life. He was spitting crazy on there. We've talked about Volume 1. It just celebrated its 24th anniversary yesterday. Volume 1 was all over the place, lacked all kind of direction. Volume 2, I don't feel like had a lot of direction either. It just was able to attach to everything that was hot at the time and everyone who was hot at the time. Just consistency. But when it came to being artistically direction oriented, the Blueprint did that. Am I wrong?
Mike, it's still his most like as far as the way his albums are put together, that's still the album that was put together the best. It's not better than Reasonable Doubt, but it's put together better.
It is, and it. This is what I'll say about the Blueprint in relation to Reasonable Doubt. I think he was rapping way better on Reasonable Doubt, right? But as far as if we're talking about game changing and changing the course of what was going on at the time, the Blueprint was that album that when it came out, it made niggas change up what they were doing. And that's because of the Sonics, and from what we're understanding, that's because of the direction of Kanye